he sounded like a robot. And then when we did the recording, we did like a test, and it still was showing, or it still sounded like I was like in space, like a robot.
Gotcha. Did StreamYard have different features that made it easier?
No, it's kind of nice. I mean, it's I'm on it now too, but yeah. So with StreamYard, we can go live on. It sounds fine now. All right. Well, of course, we didn't turn it off and turn it back on again.
Sorry.
All right, hold on. This could be Inception. If I'm live on this too. Oh my god. All right, well, we're live. Do you want to I guess I can leave.
Go over there?
Yeah, just hop over to the StreamYard.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thanks. All right, whatever. We'll just roll with this. Just give me a second to get all this stuff set up now. We're like switching back and forth. Sammy, if you have Go High Level, we can send people another email. All right, well then I will just cancel that LinkedIn post, and we will eventually get to doing this. Let's see. Let me hit back one. All right, so now we are live. So let's wait to get a little bit more people's in here, and then we will get started. I don't even know if I can tell where all the people are. Let's see. Yeah, Sammy, I think that was our big, we just didn't turn the machine off and then turn it back on again. All right, let me update the slides. All right, 4 people. Pretty solid. Keep the Zoom link open. We should be able to use both technically. All right, that sounds good. All right. So we are live on Zoom, and we are live on StreamYard. And now we're going to bring up the slides. Hang tight. Corey is not a computer guy, so not bad. All right, almost there. All right, so now we're going to add the slides. Google Slides. All right. All right, can you guys still hear me? Are we still there? There they are. How exciting is that? Can we all see that? Yay, nay. Drop a like in the chat. All right, sick. Trent, what's up, man? Welcome in. All right, we're gonna take another 2 minutes, and then we'll get started. Had a little bit of technical issues. I'm not an S6. I'm pretty awful with computers, so it is an absolute miracle that I've made it this far. But here we are. Audio wasn't working, but now it is. So good stuff. Where's everybody from? I hate asking generic questions, but just trying to get a temperature on where people are from around the country, where you're stationed at. South Dakota, now in Yuma. Very cool. Just one of our other guys was just down in Tombstone. I love Arizona. I'm a big fan of Arizona. A little dry, pretty hot, but all right. So without getting into any more of the formalities, we can go ahead and get started. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Corey. I did 10 years in the Army. I was on active duty as an artillery officer, graduated from West Point in 2011, played lacrosse there. Had a pretty standard, stereotypical artillery officer, junior officer route through the Army. I was stationed in the 101st at Fort Campbell, deployed with them, and then went to the CCC, the FACCC at Fort Sill. Ended up in Stewart, did command time there and some other, again, very stereotypical Army officer stuff. Took command there, deployed again, and then got back. And then I ended up with a teaching gig in Columbus, Ohio. And kind of how all of this stuff started for me was I had started to learn a little bit like everybody else, the gateway drug is I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I started to realize that there might be something more out there than the Army, even though I loved the Army. Like it was my childhood dream. Um, I started to see that there might be other opportunities. There's other ways of like making money. And I just wasn't very good at it. I hadn't learned the education. I hadn't gained the education necessary to really like be successful outside of just getting my paycheck from the Army. So as I transition up to Columbus, you'll have to forgive me too. I am just recovering, like being on my deathbed this past weekend. So I'm just getting over a pretty awful cold. So I might cough every once in a while, but as that transition from company command down in Savannah up into Columbus, Ohio, where I was an ROTC instructor, I'd basically decided that when I got to my new duty station, I was going to start buying real estate with my VA loan, and I was going to start building a company of my own outside of my normal job, which was going to be teaching as an ROTC officer. The two reasons I wanted to do that was because one was I knew that buying real estate was the way to get myself to the next level of wealth and get financially free, because that's what 90+% of all millionaires do. They all own real estate. And additionally, by starting a side hustle, I could start learning a little bit of entrepreneurship, and I could start to make money on the side. So that brought me to it was a long journey, and I'm going to kind of go over most of it as we discussed here today. But that basically brought me to where I'm at today, which is I have 6 properties. I own 6 properties. I have 8 doors. My portfolio is about 1.7 million in value. I cash flow anywhere from, and at peak times, when I was doing short-term rentals, it kind of fluctuates, but anywhere from like 4,000 up to 5,500 in monthly cash flow off of that real estate. I sold this company recently, but as I had left the Army, I was doing about $250K a year just off the Airbnb company, and that's not net. That's just top line. But off of that, I was basically paying myself a salary of somewhere between 45 to 55 grand a year. But I was able to work for myself. So between that cash flow from the rental properties and between what I was actively doing, managing the rentals, I was able to work myself out of a job. So that's a lot. I brain dumped on you guys, but one of the biggest things, a really big transitioning point in my life actually happened during COVID, and it made all of this stuff start to make more sense. And it's the reason that I started School of Grit. It's the reason that I believe so strongly in service members achieving their financial freedom, and really just anybody achieving their own financial freedom, is because, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, today, freedom is just bought. We do the things that we do or have to do because of money. So, and if you refuse to kind of accept that up front, you're just kind of not accepting the harsh truth. During COVID, they had the vaccine mandate, and I'll get very political on this. So I apologize if this comes off as political. It's not at all. But we had the vaccine mandate. I never ended up getting the vaccine. I know that was extremely controversial. I did it for my own personal reasons, not politically driven or anything. I thought that was all kind of stupid, actually. But I just didn't want to get it. And I went through the whole process. I ended up getting a GOMAR that was filed permanently on my file as an officer. And I had served honorably for 10 years. I was rated top 10%. I was top blocked as a company commander twice. Like I had all really good like reports and OERs and did my best. I wasn't a perfect officer, but I did my best and I performed well. And for not getting basically a flu shot for the vaccine, I ended up basically getting put out to pasture and they were talking about not having any, sorry, they were talking about kicking me out from other than honorable, a dishonorable discharge, reduction in rank. There was all sorts of stuff. It was absolute pandemonium. The point of this whole long story is I made a decision, and it was my personal decision. At that time, there were other guys that I was serving with that were more opposed to not getting the vaccine than I was, but they all ended up getting it because they didn't have another option. They had no other way of providing for their family, of making income, of anything, because it was all done just by their Army salary. So all their benefits, everything was done exclusively by their Army salary. And if the Army salary went away, they basically they could not afford to put food on the table. So they ended up having to get the vaccine. I'm not saying that's going to be the case for everybody. It's probably not. That was a unique point in time. But point of what I'm saying, which is going to lead into everything that I'm going to talk about here for the next hour. At some point in time, you're going to hit a line, and they're going to have to draw a line in the sand of something that you either don't agree with or you don't want to do X, Y, or Z. And for me, it happened to be the vaccine. For anybody else, it could be whatever. It could be, I don't support what we're doing. You can make up a million reasons, but at some point in time, push comes to shove. If you want to leave and you're really not happy where you're at, the only consideration that you're going to ask yourself is, do I have enough money to leave? And for me, and these are real figures, I had asked my real estate agent at this time, and this is when I had my epiphany. And I was like, oh my God, I don't need the Army anymore. I've already built it on my own. And I had asked my real estate agent, how much could I sell my properties for? And she said, after taxes, if you sold all of them right now, the ones that I had in Columbus, she goes, you'd easily have net $100,000. So I knew that if I had $100,000, I could live for the next year of my life, not having any change in standard of living, nothing. I would basically be the exact same person. I could live the exact same way and have the same quality of life. And I would have a year to figure out, what am I going to do next? Right. So it was at that point that I truly became free. I was able to make the decision that I wanted to. And, the rest, as I say, is history. But it was just that I had enough money outside of the Army and outside of DFAS Rome is, what I call it, which is where you get your paycheck from in the Army. It was because I had all that stuff that I was free, or because I had all the other stuff on the outside that I became free. So what we're going to talk about here is basically my journey from where I recommend you start to getting all the way up to level 1 financial freedom and then beyond. So level 1 financial freedom, as I explain it, is food, water, shelter is paid for. You don't have to worry about quality of life. You're happy living where you're at, and you make enough of that passively or actively, but you make it for yourself versus somebody else paying you. So, and I will say this, I'm not a lawyer. This is not, but I'm also not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I think I have to say this. It's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just literally exactly what I did while serving on active duty to become financially free. And I have not worked for anybody else since. I just hit, I got out of the Army March 3rd of 22. So I just hit 3 years. Haven't died yet. And I'm still ticking. And we're actually getting much better. So, all right. So without further ado, we'll get into this. You guys still with me? All three of you? This is very exciting. All right. So if you're here, you are probably here because something in your life is not working. You're not happy with it. Um, and the reason I say this is if if you if what you're doing right now is working for you, then keep doing that and just hang up on the call and probably never listen to any of my stuff ever again and just keep doing you. And no harm, no foul. I want you guys to be successful. And if what's working for you is working, then keep doing that and don't listen to what I have to say. But if what you're doing right now is not working for you, then the only logical thing that you could possibly do is the exact opposite. So what I'm about to teach you guys here is the exact opposite. All right. So the first thing, the first thing that you have to do when you want to work down this path and go down this path towards financial freedom is you have to change your mindset. You have to change the way that you've been trained to think by your family and your network and your friends of everything, and specifically the school system. Everything that you've been trained to do, if it works for you, then again, keep doing it. But if it doesn't, you need to do the opposite. So what I'm explaining here is basically the exact opposite of everything that you've been trained. And it sucks because we've been trained to think one way, and that only works so far. And if you want to become truly free, you have to do the opposite. And it's uncomfortable. Like, you're going to find out very quickly, this is not for the faint of heart. Like, this is a hard road. It's lonely. It's long. It's arduous. You need perseverance. You have to be driven by something else, because you will quit if you are not prepared to really go the distance. So, but on a good note, I will say, this is Napoleon Hill over here in the top left. He wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, and I want to read you a quote from him. His quote says, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Okay? That is the mindset that you need to have just getting started. All right? If you can like see it in your brain, if you can see success, if you can see, getting your DD 214 and walking out the door, or whatever that is to you, if you can see your own success, or you can see the idea of the company that you want to start, or if you can see the idea of the real estate that you want to invest in, or getting your first house hack with the VA loan, if you can see those things in your brain and you can conceive it, you can achieve it. All right. And that's not corny. That's real stuff, because everything that you see in the modern world that was created by man at one point in time started as an idea in somebody's head. And through manifestation and working and, tinkering with different ideas and different stuff and building stuff, that idea came into be a skyscraper. That idea came to be an NFL stadium, or that idea came to be the automobile, or whatever it is. Everything at one point in time started in a person's brain. And then over time, as they believed in it and they tried for it, it came into reality. All right. I also want you guys to start thinking in terms of, it's never I can't. Okay? You're not allowed to say I can't anymore. Your new word, your new phrase is, how can I? I can't allows you to quit. I can't allows you to say, that's too hard. Like, I can't do that, and that's easy. And that's awesome for most people, but that's not awesome for us. Okay. When you say, how can I, like, if you said like, I can't run a marathon, that's easy. You don't have to do shit. Right. But if you say, how can I run a marathon? Right. That challenges you. And this is in principle, right? But that challenges you to say, well, what if I could take one step? Right. What if I could take 100 steps? What if I could make it a mile? Right. And then what if I figured out, all right, I ran the first mile. It's like, let's try that again. Let's see, a couple days later, I'm going to try and make it a little bit farther, maybe a little bit farther. Maybe I'm going to start training. Maybe I'm going to buy the right shoes. Maybe I'm going to start eating right. Maybe I'm going to start doing this, right? You're asking yourself, how can I run a marathon? And you start chipping away at all of those other ways that it is possible. And then your brain and your body starts to fill in those gaps. And then it actually becomes achievable. All right. Your limits they're self-imposed. Like, it's the reason that you aren't a millionaire yet is not because you can't make $1 million. It's because you can't see yourself making $1 million, right? And your willingness to constantly challenge the status quo and to be uncomfortable, or really to get comfortable being uncomfortable and trying new things and looking like an idiot and making stupid decisions that you probably should have known better when it comes to investing or entrepreneurship or whatever. That's all part of the process, and you have to be comfortable knowing that there's things are bound to happen, and they're actually probably going to happen a lot, right? And you see here, I put this oxygen mask on the slide. I talk a lot about the oxygen mask analogy. When you are trying to, like, when they say, like, the plane's going down, put your oxygen mask on first, and help yourself first and then help others. It is very important that while you're going along this journey towards financial freedom, you focus on yourself and helping yourself first, because if you don't do that, you're literally just making it like less likely that you save one more person, right? Because if you die, then you can't help anybody else, right? You have to put yourself first. You have to put your oxygen mask on first, so that you're good, so that then you can go help other people. All right. I'll wait for the chat for a little bit. Any questions up until now? All right. Cool beans. Okay. Next slide here. All right. So, building wealth the rich dad way. Okay. So, if you got the emails prior to this, you should have read Rich Dad Poor Dad prior to this class. If you haven't, read Rich Dad Poor Dad like tonight. Go buy it. It is the gateway drug to, honestly, like, a better life. It changed my life. It's one of 3 books that actually legitimately changed my life. I'll share a little bit of backstory too. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad was written by Robert Kiyosaki. So, if you don't know Robert Kiyosaki, I actually ironically see a lot of parallels in my life as compared to his life. So, if you don't know, he went to Kings Point. I'm originally from Long Island. Robert Kiyosaki went to Kings Point, which is on Long Island. It's right by my house. It's like 25 minutes away. I actually grew up playing lacrosse there in, like, winter leagues. So he played football there and went to Kings Point, which is a military academy. I played lacrosse in college at Army at West Point. After that, he commissioned into the Navy or into the Marine Corps. I commissioned into the Army. His war was Vietnam. Mine was Afghanistan. So he deployed to Vietnam as a gunship, as a Huey pilot, and I deployed to Afghanistan as an artillery officer. Then we both get back in our respective ways, and he starts getting this bug for doing something outside of the established system. He started learning about entrepreneurship and everything else, and he had this poor dad and his rich dad, and both of them were very successful in their own right. But his rich dad lived, had like not even a high school degree, I believe. And his poor dad was a teacher for the state of Hawaii. And he compares and contrasts their lives and says that both of them, again, were successful in their own right. But his rich dad had more freedom, and his rich dad created more wealth and was able to help more people, employ more people, and do more stuff. because he built businesses and invested in real estate. And his poor dad only could think in a minimal, like fixed mindset. And his rich dad thought the opposite. So really and I come from a family of teachers, and there's nothing wrong with being a teacher. It's an incredibly noble profession. However, it's not for everybody. And some people don't like that they have to go to work all the time. That they want something else. And I'm not saying, and I don't advocate for not working at all. Like I think you should work extremely hard. But there's just different ways of creating wealth and building a life that you're proud of, and you don't always have to do it through the stereotypical 9 to 5. And that's what Kiyosaki talks a lot about. And he decided to pursue what his rich dad was doing and building business. So he talks a lot about the cash flow quadrant, which is seen here in this slide. And basically what the cash flow quadrant is it talks about like the levels of wealth, and it goes from E, S, and B, and then I. So E is like employee. So that's pretty much where everybody is right now. You're actively employed, you're W-2 paycheck in the army, in the military, whatever. Then you get to self-employed, which is, basically what I was when I ran my Airbnb company, right? So I went from employee to self-employed. Then you cross over the cash flow quadrant, and then you get into building bigger business, like big business, and then investor. So big business owners work on their business, right? And they have a bunch of people that are below them, even if it's, half a dozen, but generally you want to get to dozens, 50, 100 people that are under you. That's where you really start to generate wealth, because you're building a business system underneath you that functions, that you create value for the marketplace, and that functions and generates revenue and generates cash flow and generates value. And it's a multiple on your time invested. And then investor is you invest in those type of businesses. So that's like the highest and best use of your time, is getting to that I quadrant, where your money is, you're using this more so than your hands and your body. He also talks a lot about, basically also about two main things. He talks about real estate, and he talks about entrepreneurship and business. And I'm going to talk here briefly as to why you buy real estate, and also why you should start a business, or why he recommends that you do this. So with real estate, and I talk specifically about the VA loan, because a subset of real estate is the VA loan, which I think it's the greatest thing in the world for service members, but it puts you in a different, completely different category of like leverage. And there's so many good things that I really have liked about it. It's made me a ton of money with really not that much inputs into the system. And it's just, I don't know, I can't say enough good things about it. But basically what you are getting when you buy real estate, and before I say this, I want to explain one thing. The reason that he says why real estate and why business, it is because that is the way. It's because those two vessels, real estate and business and entrepreneurship, those two things, those two vessels maximize how our financial system is structured. And our financial system, I don't have time to explain it on this call, but look up fractional reserve banking. So fractional reserve banking is what he talks about, where it's fake money. Okay. And he talks about savers are losers because the dollar isn't going anywhere. It's getting devalued because of inflation, all this other stuff. And he talks a lot about how, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, that the US dollar became debt. And that's what the dollar is today. It's debt. Okay. So if you are not taking out levels of debt, it is basically impossible to deleverage yourself, to save your way, or to work your way to financial freedom, because you have no way of compounding it. You have no way of leveraging yourself against and hedging for inflation. So you have to take out debt to kind of keep up with the pace. I don't like that. Nobody likes that. That's just what it is. And if you refuse to accept that, you're either just an idiot or you just don't know about it. But now that I've told you about it, I know you're not an idiot. So you just look into it. It's kind of scary, but once you know about it and you start looking at it and you start paying attention to it, you'll start to realize oh shit, this actually makes a lot of sense. But that's what our current financial system rewards is this. It's understanding good debt versus bad debt. That is a real thing. And real estate and business building are two of the best ways to maximize your use of good debt, to include the tax benefits that you'd get from owning both of those. So, but let's talk specifically about real estate. Okay, so what are some of the good things about real estate? It's tax advantaged. Okay, it's leveraged, right? You get cash flow, and leverage is basically what I mean by leverage is if you were to buy a real estate property, let's just say a simple single family home, and you were to put $25,000 as a down payment to that property, right? The bank is going to fund the other $75,000 to help you purchase that $100,000 home, right? Where did those other $3 to the 4 come from? Where did that other 75% come from, right? You took $25,000 and you bought a $100,000 home, right? Where did the other money actually come from, right? That is fractional reserve banking. It came from other people that are putting their money into the banking system and allowing the bank to lend it out to you, and then they charge you interest. So the bank makes infinite returns on lending out money that's not theirs. Okay, and they're going to lend it to you because you now learn that I can do this legally. It's actually encouraged. So you just turned $1 into 4, right? So if you're making, let's say that property makes 3%, right? So you make 3% on $100,000 versus you only had $25,000, right? So if you put that 25 grand down, the ratio of 3% on 25 is 4 times more or 4 times less than if it were to be 3% of that 100,000. So that's what leverage is it allows you to multiply your dollar, on a basic one by 4, right? You put 25% down, you multiply it by 4, and the bank lends the other 75%. This is magnified literally infinitely when you use your VA loan. If you put $0 down on a property, you put $0 down, the bank lends you $100,000 or they lend you $250,000. So now you just became worth technically $250,000. And as that property goes up in value, you're getting 2 or 3% or 4% or 5%, whatever that property is making year over year, but you put $0 down. That's like the ultimate, that is infinite leverage. Okay. Then you're going to get cash flow, which is basically income off of those properties minus your expenses. That's your cash flow. And I'll talk real quick on the VA specifically. So the VA loan is an owner-occupied loan, right? You cannot buy a pure rental property with your VA loan, but you can buy a VA loan. You can buy rental doors with it. So if you buy a duplex, you can live on one side and you also get to rent out the other side, right? You don't have to live in both sides. You can live in one side, right? And you can also live in one side and rent out the room on the same side to your friend, and then you can rent out the other side. So that's getting closer to cash flow faster. And then you move out after a year, and then you have 2 rental doors, and then you actually start collecting that cash flow. Next is appreciation. So appreciation is just the value of the real estate going up, year over year. And I will say, I'll be the bearer of bad news. Real estate doesn't always go up. Okay. Sometimes it goes down. But over the last like 25, 30 years, the US housing market has averaged like 3 to 5% year over year, like clockwork. Okay. Like clockwork. That's to include 2008, the ups and the downs and the big, yes, it's still managed 3 to 5%, right? So if you're going to use your VA loan and you're going to put $0 down, let's say on the low end, you expect to do 3% appreciation year over year on 100% leverage. Any investor I've talked to, I know these two guys. They have a commercial portfolio. They're great. They live out in Arizona. They have a $160 million commercial real estate portfolio. I told them what I did with my VA loan. I have a condo and I have a duplex. And those are the only two things that I bought with my VA. I bought the condo first, then the duplex. I told them the returns that I got. I told them what I did and how I put $0 down on these properties and what they cash flow and what I was able to do. They were dumbfounded. They weren't even really familiar with the VA loan. Neither of them served. But they've been doing real estate for like 25, 30 years. They were blown away by the returns that I was able to get with my VA loan percentage wise, like per capita. And they were like, dude, that is the most incredible thing I think I've ever heard. So just so you know, I'm just explaining what I've been able to do to those guys. They've been in real estate way longer than I have. They were dumbfounded. So that's why I'm sharing this stuff with you all. All right. Next. So let's talk about advantages of business ownership. This will be a little bit shorter, but the same advantages that you get from tax depreciation, tax savings based off of owning a business, right? You also get magnifying your time through entrepreneurship, where your time is spent working on the system and working on the process and everything else. And you now have people that are underneath you that are, and this doesn't happen immediately unless you buy a business, but the concept of this is that's what a business is the owner is not there turning wrenches and doing everything that's needed. The owner has built the system to allow all of the employees and everybody else to exist in. While they do the work, they get the paycheck, they get the safety and security, and the owner who takes on all the risk financially, which is the worst type or something, right? That owner gets a magnifying effect or a magnification of their time in hours. So they are also beating inflation because they are magnifying their time, right? So they get an X multiple of their time. And that's how between the two of those, from leveraging their time and also now leveraging their dollar through real estate, those two things help them to achieve financial freedom because you're using both of those at the same time. All right. Okay. So let's talk mindset shift. Okay. So I know you guys, most of you should have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad prior to this call. But if not, again, read it after this. The second, I'll show this later in the slides. The second book that changed my life was this book right here, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich was written by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill, this was like 100 years ago, literally like decades ago. It was like early 19th century. Napoleon Hill was contracted, if you're not familiar with the story, he was contracted by Andrew Carnegie to study 500 of the richest men in the world at that time. These were the Rockefellers. These are like the wealthiest men, businessmen. They would have been like the Elon Musks and the Bezoses and all these other like wealthy men. And whether you agree or disagree with them, it doesn't matter. They are objectively the wealthiest people in the world. Okay. He contracted them, and he, over 20 years, and he didn't even pay them. And he came up with these 17 principles of success. And Napoleon Hill ended up teaching these. He did Napoleon Hill courses. He was like a Dale Carnegie type, where he was teaching the teachings and like the findings that he studied from all these people, and it's all documented. And he's like, yeah, this is what they all did. This is the success formula. And if you really start to study, you'll start paying more attention to this. If you really start to study what these guys and girls have done in their lives, it all comes back to Think and Grow Rich. Ask anybody. If you start, this is the language of the wealthy is knowledge. And if you start speaking Napoleon Hill and you read the book and you start understanding it, and it's off-putting in the beginning. I get it, right? At one point in time, I didn't understand it. Now I do. But if you start to speak that language, when you get in circles with like wealthy people, you start to realize what frequency and like how their minds are thinking, and in what terms that they like see the world, like what lens they see the world through. It all starts by reading this book. Okay. So the one thing that I really want you guys to take away from today is, because we're changing your mindset. We're changing your mindset from where you're at today to where you want to be like 5-10 years down the line. Okay. But you got to make the change on day one, just to initially say, okay, I'm committed to doing this. All right. So Napoleon Hill had this power, he called the power of definite purpose and a burning desire. I can't create that for you. In fact, a lot of this stuff I can't do for you. I can just kind of show you the way and show you what worked for me and show you what's worked for other people. You got to do the fucking work. I can't sugarcoat that for you. I can't give you an easy button. I can't give you some magic pill that's going to be like, here, man, take this, and like you'll be financially free. The power of definite purpose must come from here and in here. It must come from within you. You have to create a burning desire inside of yourself that is basically like, I am going to do this thing, whatever it is for you, right? I am going to do this no matter what. There is nothing that is going to stop me from achieving this goal and achieving this dream. Doesn't matter what happens. You have to be so unbelievably committed to getting like that. It's literally a burning desire. You have to be so unbelievably committed to doing that nobody and nothing else on this world will take that away from you. Okay. Let's see. He also talks about how your thoughts, so like your brain bucket, right? Your thoughts are constantly shaping your reality. So if you find yourself thinking in terms of like, I'm not that good, I'm not worthy of it. I don't think I'm smart enough. Tell your brain to shut up. Tell it to shut up and then start filling your mind with, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can get my first VA loan house hack. Yes, I can save up a couple $1,000s or a couple $100s to get started. You have to start thinking only positive things. The negative thoughts are going to come. I get them today. Everybody gets them. The thing that's going to separate you from building that like mental fortress and the mental mindset is when the negative thoughts come, you just fucking direct them right back out the door. They're going to come in, they're going to knock and be like, hey, you're not that smart. You didn't do so great in school. You're not that good. You've lost in the past. You've not been, you don't have a great track record in business. It doesn't matter. They come in, they go right back out, right? It's going to happen. You have to be committed because you're going to lose a lot. And sometimes those thoughts are valid. It doesn't matter. You have to have this you have to have this like unadulterated, just dystopian view of yourself in that you will be successful no matter what. And that's part of changing your mindset from where you're at today to where like the mindset that's going to get you through the hard times that are to come. All right. Along with that, cultivating a growth mindset. Okay. Uh, I learned this very early on, and it's something that I really believe in. And now that you guys know me, if I'm the first person to tell you this, awesome. If not, here we are. You will never, ever, ever lose again from today forward. Sounds crazy. In anything that you do, you'll never lose. Okay. You will do one of two things, but it will not be losing. You will either win or you will learn. You will either make money or you will learn. It's not losing money, it's learning. And I'm not doing that to sugarcoat it. Like, I'm not doing that to sugarcoat like a shitty thing, like losing money. It's only losing money, or it's only losing if you don't get up again after that happens. If you don't take the lesson that you were supposed to learn and apply that going forward so that it doesn't happen to you again. Right? There's no there's no scoreboard. There's no up, time's up, fourth quarter, couple seconds left. Bam, like, no, that doesn't exist in real life. So now that you know me, everything that you do, you're not winning, or sorry, you're not losing. You're either winning or learning. All right. What do we think so far? A lot of talking, right? All right. Put some comments in. What do you guys like? Any questions? Who's new to the chat? Who haven't I heard from? We might take a quick 2-minute refresher break here. So we got Trent, Sam, Austin. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna go top off on some delicious tea because I am dying over here. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna go top off on this. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. You guys can talk amongst yourselves for a few, and then we'll come back to the next slide here, which is going to be military to entrepreneurial transition. All right, we'll be back. All right. Hope you all didn't leave. It's going to get better. Okay. So, all right, let's get cut up here. I'm following something to read the material you suggested. Dude, the subtle art of not giving a fuck is great. Would you like us to switch over to Zoom? I'm good here, Trent. If you guys can still hear me and this is still good, I actually think I canceled the Zoom. We were having some issues with StreamYard on the audio when we did our test run, so we're gonna switch over to Zoom. But we did this again. We started this back up, and the audio turned out okay. So we didn't turn the thing off and then turn it back on. So we'll stay here. All right. So now that we're back, so we talked Robert Kiyosaki, right? We talked real estate, and then what was the other thing you said? You said business and entrepreneurship, right? So I genuinely believe that service members are uniquely fit, like perfectly, to take on entrepreneurship. Okay. So, and the reason I say this is for a couple of reasons, but entrepreneurship is extremely taxing mentally, physically. It is, it's very hard. And in order for you to do this, to go down that entrepreneurial journey and that route, you have to be like pretty lock solid upstairs, and you have to have that, what I said before, you have to have that like definite of purpose. Okay, we all have a definite of purpose, the mission for the military or whatever. We have that. Okay, we have that like internal like ticker that just keeps us moving forward, right? What you don't have in the military that, Uncle Sam doesn't give you is the education and the knowledge. Okay. So where maybe like your civilian counterparts might have like a little bit more of like the business savvy or like the numbers and the facts and the figures and all the other shit. That's still very important. But if that guy gets punched in the face, right, versus you know what it feels like, right? You're ready to come back up again and keep going. That's when they say like most businesses fail and everything. It's because they don't have that, right? You guys have these unique set of skills, and I realized this like pretty early on from me specifically. I was like, you get these like unique, like weird, I call them like enduring hardship like cookies. It doesn't even make sense, but like you get, or credits, you get like really good at dealing with a lot of bullshit. You get really good at kind of just sucking for an extended period of time in arduous environments, and the rain and the cold and all sort of stuff. And it's something you can't really quantify. But then you get out to the civilian world and you're like, man, like nobody's ever really dealt with this. Like it's really not that bad. Like people get angry if they're like their flight's delayed, or they get like the weather's bad or something, and you've been out in the cold, or you've had to come back like me I was coming back from we finished like 6 months. It wasn't very long, but we did a 6-month deployment, and everybody's coming home, and we get delayed. We're supposed to be coming into Hunter on July 4th. We got delayed by 7 days getting out of Kuwait to come back to Hunter. So we ended up getting back, I think, like July 10th or something like that. But that's like normal in the Army. That's not normal in civilian society, right? So you have this like what I say, school of grit, right? You have this like grit factor to you that is really unique. And the problem is that you don't know how to run a balance sheet. You don't know how to market. You don't know how to sell. You don't know how to do a lot of these like things that are necessary for entrepreneurial success. But that's great because you can learn all these things faster than it takes you to build grit. Okay. So you have a ton of opportunity to start in entrepreneurship, to start learning the process and the business ethics or business, not ethics, business. I'm thinking of Billy Madison or business ethics. No, you have to learn like the business, like the 101 basically. You have to learn certain things that are going to be required to be successful in business, but you can learn those, right? You can, like, at some point in time, whatever your MOS is in the military, right? Like I was an artillery guy. At some point in time, I didn't know how to do a call for fire, right? I didn't know how to call over a radio to shoot artillery like 5 miles away to hit some tank in the middle of the desert, right? But I learned how to do that in a classroom, and then we went out and we did it, and now I know how to do it, right? It's the same thing for business, right? You just have to learn. It's just the education. You can learn it in books, in podcasts, and talking to people. And it's a constant thing. You have to be, I don't know if I said this already, but you have to be like an absolute savage at learning. That's what you have to do. You have to hunt this. Like, when you're have downtime in the military, you have to be reading a book that's related to business. You have to be improving yourself constantly because it's those minutes and seconds while you're on active duty that are going to correlate to you being successful, not only out of uniform, but like as you transition into your next phase. Like you're constantly setting yourself up for success, right? You're either helping yourself or you're hurting yourself. If you're not taking steps to be successful in entrepreneurship, that's, I'm not going to stop you. But if you're not doing that, you're just honestly just hurting yourself. All right. And that is why I'll talk it here in a second, but that is really the reason why I started School of Grit. That's why we have the Discord. If you haven't joined it, feel free. It's in it's in all my bio links and everything on TikTok, on LinkedIn. It's on our website. We've got a free Discord. It's a private Discord and a free Facebook group. The Discord's a little bit more active. That's where we post a lot more of our tips, tutorials, learning. Hey, check out this podcast, listen to this, read this. If you got questions, ask them in the Discord, and one of our team members will get back to you. You have to be ruthlessly trying to get yourself better. You got to be getting better at networking. There's a lot of things that you can really do. But building that sense of community, and it was a lack of knowledge for me. Like I didn't really have a community to help me get started. So I tried to plug into all these other ones. I just learned myself. Now, because I've, hit level 1 financial freedom, and now I'm working on bigger projects and stuff, I can give back and I can help other people to like not make it suck as much as it did for me. It's still going to suck. Like I can't rob you of the experience of getting started and of failing and of doing all the stuff, right? Like if I do that, you're not going to get the full value, because the value is not in succeeding. The value is making sure that you know that you can succeed, that you know that you could do this, right? Because if I just give you all the answers, I'm hurting you, right? I'm just giving you the fish for the day, the proverbial fish, right? If I teach you how to fish, then you're going to eat forever, and hopefully you build a fishing business and you feed more people and you employ more people, right? That's like taking that analogy like a step further, which is what I really believe. I don't believe that like right now I was taught to fish. I asked about it. I learned, right? But like I was taught to fish, and right now I could just eat forever by myself, right? But I believe that that's not good enough. I believe that I have a moral obligation to be on this call with all 4 of you explaining all this stuff, because I know that people need this information out there, and it's not like readily available specifically for the military, but also it's really like it's hard, and you need a community. You need like tough-minded individuals to go down the road with you and be like a sounding board. And that's why I started this. That's why I started the whole thing, is because I could have used somebody, like I say, like I'm 36 now, and I was like, I built this for like my 26-year-old self, like 10 years in the past, because that kid didn't really have anything. He was, he was good person, but like didn't really have a mentor, like anybody to really like kind of guide him along this route. and help them to get to, where I'm at today. All right. So there's a couple other things that I'll say here. Your military discipline is not just for nothing. It does support entrepreneurial resilience. I talk a lot about something that'll make you successful in the entrepreneurial world is they talk. So when I went to Ranger School, I had this guy, one of my friends told me, he's like, I asked him, I was like, what's the key to Ranger School? And he's like, be a good dude and carry heavy shit. Okay. And that's pretty much the same in business and entrepreneurship and real estate. Be a good person, be a good dude, and carry heavy shit, and you'll be successful, right? Why do they say carry heavy shit? Because nobody wants to fucking carry heavy shit. That's a fact. Nobody wants to carry the 240. Nobody wants to carry the giant radio pouch for the RTO. Nobody wants to do any of that stuff. Nobody wants the FO kit because it's extra weight. But if you do those things, if you carry heavy things, metaphorically and literally, but if you carry those things, all of the other people in your platoon or in your unit are going to realize that you're doing those hard things and that is helping them out. And that is pretty much business 101, right? You're doing hard shit to help out other people, right? And the benefit is you'll probably get peered high, right? And you'll graduate. And that's it. If you're able to help other people to be successful, your success is guaranteed. And it literally is as simple as that. All right. Okay, let's see. All right. We're kind of winding down here. I'll take some Q&A at the end of this if you guys got. If you got questions, drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them either now or right before we finish. Okay, before we get into this last slide, though, I also want to talk briefly about risk. Okay, so entrepreneurship, real estate, all this shit's risky. Okay, everything. Just existing, walking out your door every day to go get the paper, go get a coffee, that's risky. You should not be doing that because you could get hit by a car on the way to getting a coffee. You should really just stay in your house and not go anywhere, right? You shouldn't be in the military. You shouldn't deploy. You shouldn't go training. Everything we do in life is risky. That's it. Everything's risky, right? Having a job and not having an alternative plan is risky, right? Risk is mitigated by knowledge. The more you know, right? So risk, when you first start out, like in real estate and entrepreneurship right now, pretty much all of you, risk level is here and like knowledge level is here, okay? As you increase your knowledge, your risk comes down. Increase your knowledge, risk comes down. Now, knowledge will go higher, but it will never hit the ceiling. And your risk level will go down, but it'll never hit the bottom, right? So you can never bring risk down to zero, and your knowledge can never be infinite, okay? But if you think in terms of that, right? Increase my knowledge, bring down my risk. Increase my knowledge, bring down my risk, right? If you can internalize that and start thinking that way, you're already on the road to success, okay? And there is risk in playing it safe also, right? And look at my personal story that I opened with for COVID. If I had a job and also look today at what is it, Doge, right? They're firing government employees left and right. How many of those, and don't give a fuck about politics. That's just what's happening. The government, whoever it is firing people, okay? It happened to be a different government when I was in, and that government was firing people for not getting a vaccine. In a job that should be bulletproof, right? It should be great. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who's in control or who's in charge. It really doesn't. If I didn't have a backup plan, if I didn't have another way of making money, right? What about the people now that are park rangers that everybody's getting fired? If they only did that, they're like, oh no, I got a safe job. I got a safe and secure job. Not really. You can get fired at any given point in time. You can get downsized. Like people think that there's this, safety and like job security and everything else. government jobs are pretty much the safest shit that you want, right? Look for me, right? I never ended up getting the vaccine. Okay. If I, and that's a double-edged sword too. Like if I wanted to, if I didn't agree with the vaccine, right? Whatever it is, if I didn't want to get it, I would have been really upset because that I would have had to have gotten it to keep my job. Right. But when you hit that line in the sand, right, you need to be able to be good up here and in your wallet, knowing that regardless of what the government does, or it's not about the government, it's regardless of whatever happens, your employer, blah, 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 right? You are good on your own because you have the knowledge about how to make money. You have the knowledge about how to invest properly. You've already been doing it. And that base of financial stability is what gives you your freedom. You buy your freedom today. That's it, period. You buy it. All right. So winding down here, we'll go to this will be, we won't talk this exactly just yet, but okay. So here's what I want you guys to start thinking and as we go into the next class, which will be next Monday, which hopefully I'll be feeling better. I should be. It only takes me like 72 hours to get over these things, but still can't breathe in my nose. But every single day, I'm gonna talk through some quick points here, and then I'll talk to you guys about actionable stuff to do between now and next class. Okay, so now that you've met me, and now that you know about this stuff, every single fucking day from here forward, if you're serious about this is what you need to do. Okay, you need to hunt knowledge every single fucking day. Every day. Be relentless in your pursuit of knowledge. Okay? That's books. If you got a cargo pocket, put a fucking book in there. And anytime you're like, smoke break, take your book out, read a couple pages. On the road, into the office, 15 minutes, put on a podcast. Listen to it at 2x speed. You're going to listen to twice as much. Okay? Or 1x or 1.5, whatever you can handle, right? You have to be obsessed with doing this stuff. On your lunch break, listen to a podcast, listen to an Audible, watch a YouTube video, start immersing yourself in knowledge. Okay. You will be absurdly impressed and rewarded if you start doing this. If you start really hunting knowledge, because everything about me now, I'm not some superhuman. I'm a very stature-wise, I'm 175 pounds soaking wet. I'm a very average human being, right? But my brain is wired differently now because I've spent years, probably thousands and thousands of hours learning, talking to people, shutting my mouth and listening, right? I've learned so much over these last couple of years that if anything happened to me, and I don't need a job now, but if I lost all my money, I'm not, when they say the millionaires, they'll be like, if they ask Buffett or whatever, he's like, what would you, would you be able to make it back? If you lost all your money? I know for a fucking fact that I could probably build it better now than I already did because it's a process and I know the people to talk to, and I know where to go, and I know what to do. And you can't take that from somebody. It's up here. It's your mental fortress of solitude. Okay. And also start being, at School of Grit, we talk about our core principles. Gratitude is number one, resilience, initiative, and tenacity. Okay. Start being grateful for everything that is actually happening in your life, whether you think it's good, bad, or indifferent. Be grateful that you're going through it. And I know what that seems. You're at the beginning. Okay. You're not where I'm at. You haven't had the perspective or the lens to look through like I have. Just understand that there will be purpose at some point in your life to everything that you've done. So just be grateful for that. Okay. It'll all start making sense. I promise. Control your thoughts. Let's see what else. Okay, here's another like little kind of, this is off the beaten path from what we've talked about, but you need to start leaning into discomfort to start getting more comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay, this is, we'll talk this later at a later point, but if something seems too difficult or it like makes you nervous, you need to start leaning into those opportunities, whether it's talking to a girl at a bar or in a coffee shop, or if it's going up to somebody that has a nice car and asking them what they do, or if they have any advice, or whatever it is, if it's starting the new business, if it's investing in a property, whatever makes you like tense up and get like almost a little nervous, whatever that is for you, lean into that, because you're going to have to do that over and over and over and over again as you go down this path. And it sucks. And I wish I could make it easier for you, but I can't. I can only make it like a little bit better because I can just give you better knowledge, but you still have to go do the thing. Okay. All right. Now that we're wrapping up, so actionable takeaways, right? Every day, hunt and crave, seek out knowledge, control your thoughts, choose how you will suffer, which basically just means what I just said. If you're going to start suffering, you're going to put yourself through this gauntlet of going and achieving your personal financial freedom. Choose the way that you're going to suffer, right? You're choosing to do hard things like this, and the suffering will have meaning behind it. All right. Actions for this week. So read The Miracle Morning. This is not the book. This is not one of the books that really changed my life. Think and Grow Rich, which is number 2 here. That book did. Okay. But I want you to read these two. Okay. Read Think and Grow Rich and read The Miracle Morning. What The Miracle Morning did for me was during COVID, when my boss, and I'll tell you guys eventually about this, but like my boss was really, I didn't really get along with him. Okay. I'll keep it G-rated. Okay. He was stealing my time daily in the Army, and he was filling it up with honestly like what I felt like was a bunch of useless shit. He was giving me all these extra taskings, and he knew that I was working on something outside of, he knew that I was starting to get in real estate and started with business. And it was always this like, friction, right? That's always going to be there. You're never going to have like, your boss is never going to tell you like, hey man, like, yeah, go build your side hustle. Go do it. It's never going to happen. You need to fucking take it, and you need to figure out, you need to create that friction. That is what's going to get you out. Okay. So I basically re-engineered. I said, okay, if this guy's going to take up my day, I need to figure out how to get more time back so that I can still do everything at the office and do all the shit that I'm trying to do. Because I'm not going to stop doing what I want to do. And if I stop doing the stuff at work, then I'll get kicked out immediately, right? But I figured out how to do all of it. Shouldn't have been that hard? Probably not. But it was, and I figured it out. The Miracle Morning in concept was really the one thing that helped me to do that. And it basically I'll give you the summary. Go to sleep early, wake up early. That's it. Okay? Build your morning routine. Read the book. Build your vision script, and you can use the one, and we'll send this out to you guys also. It's the Think and Grow Rich vision script for what you want your life to start looking like, and the manifestations of the things that you want to have in your life, in your near future. Okay, that's a Tagger Think and Grow Rich vision script. So the Miracle Morning is going to help you, because I know all of you are in the military, and you're gonna be like, "Well, I got PT in the morning. I got this." I don't fucking care. You're not going to get sympathy from me, I promise. You need to do it anyway. You need to find time in the morning. And when I say this, like, to my core, and the guys that know me, I have done everything, and I'm not Superman. I have done everything that I'm telling you guys to do here. I was getting up, and you don't have to do it forever. You have to do it for a short period of time, right? Sometimes longer than necessary or longer than you would like. For a very short period of time, like a couple months, I was getting up at 3 a.m., 3:30, 4 a.m., and I wasn't clocking in to work. I had to be at work when we were remote. I had to be there at 9, but even if I had to be there at 6 or 6:30 for PT, I was still able to put in 2 to 3 hours or 4 to 5 hours, depending, for me. Nobody fucked with me in that early morning time. So I could research real estate. I could learn. I could look at properties. I could build stuff. I could do networking. I could reach out. I could do whatever I needed. I just listened to podcasts, whatever I wanted. That was my time and nobody can mess with it. Okay. That's what you need to cultivate. That burning desire for you to be like, fuck everything else that's going on. I still need to stay dedicated to me, myself, and I, because nobody is going to come help me. I have to do it myself. The Miracle Morning just shifted that in my brain. It was one of the best things that I did was I started building that morning routine. And then that helped me to change my mindset and everything else. And it all kind of rolled downhill after that. So I highly encourage you read that book. And then read Think and Grow Rich. Read Think and Grow Rich first, and then Miracle Morning. But get all this stuff done. We'll put out some more emails if you're signed up for our stuff. If not, sign up for School of Grit on our website at schoolofgrit.co. That's co. Schoolofgrit.co. Sign up for all that. Sign up to our socials. As long as you're on our email list, you'll get pushed all this stuff out. But yeah, I'll take. That's pretty much it for day one. I know it's a lot of stuff. This is the first time I've done this. So it's probably all over the place. I have a ton of knowledge and information I want to share with you guys. But drop a bunch of questions in the chat, and I'll answer them. Ugh. Been a long day, let me tell you. If you guys don't have anything, I'll put them in the Discord. All right. Nothing heard. If you guys got questions, I'm happy to answer them. Oh, sorry, there's a lag. Gotcha, Trent. What is the best way to use the VA loan for rental if you don't plan on living in it, like you said with the condos? So you have to live in it. So that's the stipulation. The VA loan is an owner-occupied loan. This is what I did, okay? Whether it's a single family or a duplex, you can buy up to a quadplex, which is 4 units. So you can do single, double, duplex, triple is triplex, or quadplex is a 4 unit. Okay. It's 1 year. You have to live there for a year, right? Buy a condo or buy a single family home, and you can house hack any of this. But what I always recommend, give yourself a year. Like our School of Grit, our timeline is 2 properties within 36 months. Okay, so that's basically 18 months in the first one and then 18 months in the second. That is so much fucking time. You could probably do 3 in that same time frame. But you have to live in the property if you're going to use the VA loan. Okay, you can't buy out of state and then go finance it and never live there. Live in the property. While you're living in the property, rent out the rooms, rent out the garage, like figure out how to make income on that property. I've talked about this in the Discord. I've done this on other lives and stuff too. Figure out how to get your mortgage paid down while you're living in it. And then once you've moved out a year later, rent it out completely. I've lived in all of my properties. The first condo that I bought
I lived in for, I think, like 18 months, 15 or 18 months. I lived in that. I rented it on Airbnb for a month. I had a travel nurse that stayed with me for a little bit. I rented the extra room to a friend. Then my sister and her husband came down and they lived in the other bedroom for a couple months during COVID. Then I moved out of that condo. I bought the duplex. I lived in one side, then flipped that, made it nice, then got it rented, then moved to the other side, flipped that, got it rented in about, I think that was like 15 months, and then moved out. And then I lived with my sister and her husband. Again, we've just house hacked like nonstop. Lived at their condo, then lived at their house, and then finally bought this farm that, if you're watching my social media stuff, this is where I'm at now, by myself out the farm. And I bought like 3 acres out in the country. So that's what I recommend. You build the business. Like, I looked at all of those investments and properties as building the business. That built my cash flow, got me into real estate, but you live in it and then cash flow while you're living in it, and then a year later move out and just rinse and repeat. That is the best way that I have found. That's like really the only way. No problem, man. All right, I'm gonna hop off here. Hope you all enjoyed, all 4 of you, I think. This was awesome. It was the first time we did this. So tune in for next week. Follow us on socials. We're on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the good ones. Instagram, School of Grit. And if you're not signed up already, you can go to our website, www.schoolofgrit.co.co, and get signed up for our newsletter. We send out a bunch of emails explaining all this stuff, trying to help you guys get started. So awesome. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll talk to you all soon.